and welcome to another episode of Glorious Life on Wheels. Today, as the title suggests, I'm going to go into a subject that I don't hear very many YouTubers discussing, and that is why being a nomad, doing van life, absolutely sucks and is a miserable experience for so many people. It doesn't matter whether you're doing van life because you're forced to, because you have financial challenges, or whether it's something you've always dreamed of doing and maybe your last hurrah for an opportunity to have an adventure. Either way, this single thing can make your life miserable as a nomad. And I'm going to address it, but I'm going to also give you some ways and tips how to avoid this if you do want to get out on the road. So come on, let's discuss it, shall we? Before I get into one of the main reasons that so many van life and nomad folks are miserable, I need to go over a couple of definitions of personality types that are engaged in van life. And you may wonder, well, what the heck does this have to do with why people are miserable? Well, just stay with me. I'm going to land this plane, and when I do, all of this will come together and it'll make sense. The first of the two personality types I'm going to talk about is introverts. Introverts tend to be very uncomfortable in crowds. They like being alone. In fact, they get recharged by being alone. When they're in crowds or around a lot of people, they're overstimulated and they're often very uncomfortable. Introverts can go for long periods of time without having social interaction, and they're very comfortable. Two people that come to mind. The first are Carolyn from Carolyn's RV Life. Now, I don't know Carolyn personally, but from what I've seen of her, it appears that she may be an introvert. She tends to like to be way out in the wilderness, just her and her dog. She can be there for days or even weeks at a time and is comfortable. In fact, it seems that that's what she prefers the most. I'm going to refer to my notes also so I get this right. But also, introverts tend to be more reserved. They tend to prefer communicating with people one-on-one rather than in a group. That makes perfect sense why Carolyn from Carolyn's RV Life would be so comfortable on YouTube, because she's talking into a camera and no one else is present. Another nomad who comes to mind, who is an acknowledged introvert, is Bob Wells. Again, even though he does address groups, he seems to be more comfortable in the lifestyle that he's chosen away from others. In fact, my understanding is that the property that he purchased is way away from others and a more isolated property in a location that there's not many folks around. So they have chosen to match the way they do nomad life with their personality. In preparing for this video, I came across a very interesting bit of trivia, and that is that introverts tend to have more blood flow to the frontal lobe of their brain. That's where the thought process occurs and planning. And introverts tend to be more retrospective, tend to plan more, think ahead, whereas extroverts tend to be more impulsive. Extroverts tend to like to be more active and more involved with other people. They tend to be very sociable, very outgoing. They're actually comfortable in groups. They get recharged, whereas introverts are recharged by spending time alone. An extrovert may even be someone who takes on the leadership role in a group. An excellent example, I think, of a van life couple who are extroverts are Nathan and Marissa from Less Junk, More Journey. They did a video a while back in which they talked about how their first year on the road, even though they had each other, was so difficult and how they felt so isolated and so alone. And in fact, they shared how they almost quit van life and being nomads. And then they met other couples. And they started doing things with other couples, traveling with other couples, meeting up. Now they have huge get-togethers, huge meetups. They even sponsor different events. And it has turned their life on the road around because they matched their lifestyle on the road to their personality. And now I'm going to bring it home like I said I would. In order to be happy on the road, I think the critical thing that most people don't talk about or even think about is matching the way you do van life to your personality. If you're an extrovert and you're trying to do van life by traveling every day, stopping and then going to a different location, stopping, going to another location, you're never going to make connections. You're not going to be meeting people, making long-lasting and enduring friendships. You're probably going to be very, very lonely. I would suggest, if you're an extrovert, that you start out van life perhaps in a caravan, traveling with some other people. You'll be able to sit and talk with them. You'll maybe share meals together. You will be able to sit around a fire. I was in a caravan briefly when I first started van life, and I absolutely loved it. I got to cook with other people. We even went out and played bingo one night together. We sat around every night a fire and talked, and it was really invigorating, and it just built me up. And if you're an extrovert, that's probably what you need to do, is figure out a way to, if you're not doing it in a caravan, perhaps travel with another person. But I would say maybe even stay in one location, like in a city for a while, where you have familiar surroundings, where you know people, where you can build yourself up by going to visit people, even knowing the people at the same gas station where you go, or going to the same restaurant, or going to the same grocery store or library. You have people that you know and you can chat and you can talk to, and you probably have developed friendships in a certain place. I would suggest that you do city van life or nomad living for the first few months to get the hang of it and start meeting other people that perhaps you can travel with. That's what I would suggest if you're an extrovert. Or perhaps going to Quartzsite, where you can meet up with some folks and maybe camp together, but you can live this lifestyle in a way that feeds your soul and sustains you rather than making you feel isolated. On the other hand, if you are an introvert, then perhaps traveling would be an ideal situation for you starting out. Now, I'm not saying traveling every day, because it can be very costly and very expensive in terms of gasoline cost, but traveling places where you don't know people and where you won't necessarily interact with individuals or have conversations, that may be fine for you. If you're an introvert, you would be happy doing that, where you could go to one location, stay there for a while. When you get ready to move on, you go on to your next location. If you need to speak with someone, you can do it on the phone, or you can communicate by email or by text, because often introverts prefer communicating in writing versus in person or by verbal communication. But the whole point I'm trying to make is, it is critical to make sure that the travel and the lifestyle that you choose has to match your personality type if you are going to succeed as a nomad and if it's going to be sustainable. There was a gentleman, I wish I could remember his name. He did a video, I think it was about a year ago, maybe 8 months ago. He was on the road for several months, and he came off the road, and he talked about some of the reasons that he did. One of the main reasons was how lonely he felt. He talked about how it was just abject loneliness. He was used to living in a city, being around a lot of people, interacting with people all the time, and he said that being on the road was one of the loneliest experiences he had ever had, and he didn't consider this before getting on the road. So I'm just suggesting to you that this be something that you consider if you're going to start life as a nomad, whether by choice or by necessity. If you've experienced a mismatch with your personality and the way you have been doing life as a nomad, could you make a comment or leave it in the comments and let me know? If you find this helpful and you think it makes sense, Let me know that in the comments too. But anyhow, hopefully this gives someone who may be about to start life on the road something to think about and some tips on how to plan so you'll be more successful in your journey as a nomad. All right, till next time, may your journeys be filled with joy and blessings. Oh, and don't miss a video I have coming up with two senior ladies who are going to talk about some of the challenges and how the government gives you things on one hand and then takes them away on the other. So stay tuned for that video coming up. Bye-bye. Till next time.